Yeah, so normally I tell people like don't quit unless you have another job lined up and be smart about it, but no, there was one job that I literally walked out of without giving notice and I never came back. It was such a horrible job. I I struggled a long time with I wanted to leave for a long time, and in fact I had been like putting in applications other places, but I didn't have anything else lined up. It was I was working at a restaurant that was connected to a hotel, and the management was very dysfunctional. It was an unhealthy. Okay, so this was like I think 20 years ago now, so it's been a while. And the place has since been destroyed and torn down, which I don't know. I remember driving by that one year and feeling a little bit like poetic justice about it. Just that that place no longer existed. And, anyways, back to the story. I was working at a restaurant and it was dysfunctional leadership, dysfunctional coworkers, and not to mention probably a lot of health codes in the restaurant were probably being broken. For an example, the cook, many times I would go back into the kitchen to like get more plates or put dishes away or whatever. And I saw the cook smoking. This was back in the days when you could smoke indoors. The cook was literally smoking a cigarette while he made pancakes. It's so gross. Anyways, I got treated terribly. Like the literally the worst job I've ever had. And I had worked in the food industry since I was 16 up till how old was I when this happened? Maybe 21, 22. I can't remember now. Maybe 22. Um, yeah, I it's not like I couldn't handle the food industry. No, I loved the food industry before working at that place. I just there was nothing available at my previous place of work. I moved out of town and came back, and then it just wasn't an option, unfortunately. So then I ended up working at this other place, and I struggled for a long time, just wanting to quit, but then thinking like, oh, but you're supposed to give like 2 weeks notice, and just it was the kind of job where it like you'd secretly cry when nobody was looking, like so dysfunctional, such a dark uh all I can think of is the word vibe, energy, like dark, the kind of place that you walk into and you go, I shouldn't be here, but like I was working there. It was a very unhealthy place to work on many levels. So one day I just couldn't take it anymore. And for one of my tasks while I was working there, they would have somebody, it was a restaurant connected to a hotel. And so sometimes your job would be like take someone in the company van to go drop them off at the airport, which was like 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away. So it was kind of this sweet escape. Anytime it was like, hey, you need to go take someone to the airport, it was like, yes, could get out of the stench of the drama and dysfunction for a while. So I was on a airport run, dropped the person off, and I was just like praying so hard, stressed, just like, please God, I want to just leave this. But at the time I was single, there's one income. I had a roommate, but like, I wanted to be able to pull my own weight, for part of the rent. And so I needed income. And so I was praying about it and just being like, God, I can't keep coming back to this place. I literally want to leave now, today. And all of a sudden, I got like this mental image of the application that I had filled out and signed when I had gotten hired. And I remembered that there was a part on the application that said something like, this is at will employment. The employer can fire you with or without notice at any time, and the employee can leave with or without notice at any time. The minute I remembered that, I knew I was going to walk out when I got back. And I'm telling you, like, it has to be super extreme for me to even feel like that's what I need to do. Because I'm all about like give 2 weeks notice, or as much time as you can, even if it's a place you don't really love. So that's how bad this place was. So I got back from the airport run, came back into the restaurant, and again, someone said something or did something that was really dysfunctional and messed up. And I just knew, like, I'm going. That's it. So I gathered my things and I went into the kitchen to look for whoever was in charge at the time. I found the head manager or the owner. I don't know what you would call this person. They weren't there every day, and I had never really gotten super weird stuff from him, but he never stopped it. So, what did they call it? Like silence is approval or something. So he never said for anyone to stop these dysfunctional things, but he wasn't there every day. So, anyways, I went into the kitchen and he was showing somebody was, I guess, visiting. I don't know if it was an inspector, but somebody who I didn't know who it was visiting and getting a tour that day. And I stood there in the kitchen with tears streaming down my face because I was so angry and so done with it. And I was like, I stood there and they both stopped and looked at me and were like, yes. And I was crying and I was like, I'm leaving and I am not coming back. But then all of a sudden it was like, oh, what's wrong? And of course, probably just because whoever that was getting a tour, the manager didn't want to look bad. And so it was like, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? And I can't remember what I said at the time. It was something like, you guys can't treat me this way anymore. I'm not going to take it. Like, I had really gotten a fire lit under me. I was like, I'm leaving. And so I did. I walked out mid shift, never went back. The good news in all of this was I literally later that day had an interview scheduled at a different job. I went to that interview. It went great. I went home and later I got a call that I had been hired to that new job. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but it did for me. And I stayed at that job for like 3 years. Loved it. Met some awesome, amazing people. A great move for me. It was incredible. Wonderful. Met some very special friends there, special people, awesome relationships, great place to work. Loved it. So, I'm sharing this story as an encouragement for anyone who is working at a job that is just super dysfunctional. Maybe it's time to get some resumes out there. Maybe it's time to look at any contracts you've signed, just see what's there. I'm not telling you, like, total disclaimer, I'm not telling you to walk out of a job, but I'm also not telling you not to. But do have a plan. It's better to have a plan. That interview worked out for me later that day. So, yeah, sometimes you just have to give your notice and walk out, or just walk out without giving notice. That's just my story. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. Just think about it.